Before the Dottore became a monster feared across the world, before the Fatui gave him power without the limits, there was a scholar named Zandik. And this is the story of how knowledge without morality created one of Genshin's darkest antagonists. Hi, I am Infi Genshin Impact lore player who is obsessed with the
gaze of the gods.
Luna Force Aquan quest was insane and it changed the perspective of the Dottore. So, in this video, we will cover Dottore's backstory. Yes, the story of Zandik, the scholar. So, this takes place around 400 years ago, not long after the Cataclysm. Zandik was a Sumeru academia scholar known for his exceptionally great intelligence and research. Yet, he was clearly detached from reality. Every experiment of his drives him one step away from being human. He doesn't believe that knowledge has limits and lacks the basic empathy. Unlike most scholars who pursued wisdom to help humanity, Zandik studied humans themselves, not to heal them, not to understand them, but to test their limits. Without any doubt, we see that he truly doesn't care about anyone instead of his desires. But how did we get to know all this? For that, let's head to Sumeru. When exploring the desert, traveler finds 3 ruined golems from Kandria which defended the civilians during Cataclysm. One of them is in Devantaka mountain, second one in Valley of Dahari, and the last one is in Desert of Hadramawet. However, all of them are now abandoned in desert, barely functioning. We encounter many notes lying there, barely readable, but can theorize what it might have happened. So, let me explain it in the form of story. So back when Zandik was an academia scholar, he was sent on a field research trip to investigate with his team. Zandik was not really interested in biodiversity there, but the abandoned Kandrian ruined golems. He was researching them in private, and he got reprimanded twice by the sage for violating rules. Zandik was aware that the third time, he might invite some serious trouble. On outside, he was just pretending to record the size and shape of mechanical parts. But secretly, he had some other plans. He was intrigued by the design and working. He was investigating the mechanism and principle of machines and was collecting a lot of components of machines to study them for his experiment. He knew that being in academia would be beneficial for his experiments. His other team member, Sohreh, a young female researcher, notices this and she tries to approach Zandik and started liking him. They discuss traits of local plants and animals and exchange views on evolution models. As her darshan was Amrita, that is biology, she even mentioned him as handsome in her notes. But they later planned to go on a picnic together. The next note we find and we learn that Sohreh got attacked by tigers and suffered injuries but survived. Meanwhile, at the same time, the team got attacked by the ruined golem and Zandik happens to react quickly and save them. He then insists on taking him back to disassemble and reverse engineer it. This was strongly opposed by Sage Shanama and he reprimanded him, ultimately removing him from the author's list. This was his third time he acted without authorization. For a researcher, being removed from author's list is like one of the biggest punishments one can get. Their field trip comes to an end with the death of Sohreh. The death of Sohreh? Here's a little mystery. Sohreh survived the attack of tigers, but she died. How did Sohreh actually die? So here's my theory on what might have happened. I think Sohreh didn't die of tiger attack, but someone killed her. Yes. And who might have killed her? Yes, we are thinking the same person. The possibility of Zandik killing her as she might have become a threat to him. We encounter another note known as dissection records. The dissection records clearly indicate that the fatal injury was the wound on her throat. Sohreh's hyoid bone was fractured and she suffered asphyxia. But Zandik was laying low to stay hidden, right? How he might have killed her. We know that Sohreh is the only team member who knows about his obsession with machines. Sohreh survived the tiger attack, but someone didn't like that. Yes, Zandik. Here's my theory. Isn't it a little suspicious how both incidents happened together? Sohreh getting injured and then the machine incident? So, here's what I think. Sohreh might have opposed Zandik ethically or questioned his machines, or she saw something she shouldn't have, possibly on their date. I mean, picnic. Or she might have caught him red-handed doing something nasty. Sohreh might have threatened to report him to other team members, and then he had to choose between her life or his secret. We also read that the team tried to test machine but had to halt their test because of several physiological effects. What I think is someone possibly tempered with machine for it to attack his team members. Yes, him, Dottore, to protect his little secret of his and restore others' faith in him. The chaos of machine activating on its own, hurting team members, serves a great alibi to restore faith of his team members in him, ultimately being their savior and saving himself from punishment. And that's not the only time the Dottore indebts others for his desires. Fast forward to Genshin webtoon released in 2018, monsters were terrorized by Ursa the Drake for many years, a threat no one could truly eliminate. However, one day, Dottore, the Fatui diplomat by Snezhnaya, arrives. Il Dottore, with calculated precision, he ended the reign of He ended the reign of the dragon and walked away as a hero. But Kaya quickly noticed the truth. Dottore didn't save Mondstadt out of goodwill. He engineered the situation to position himself as a savior, securing unrestricted access to people who would soon become their test subjects. A nation indebted to him. Sounds familiar, right? Because this is how Dottore operates. This is, of course, a theory, but one that aligns disturbingly well with everything we know about his personality. Dottore doesn't simply conduct experiments, he creates chaos, manipulates events from the shadows, then steps forward as the solution to a problem he helped create. People thank him, trust him, owe him, all while never realizing they were part of the experiment from the very beginning. It doesn't matter whether his subjects are allies or enemies. Take Sohreh, the girl who harbored feelings for him, or Group, who betrayed Dottore only to be transformed into a mechanical weapon, his punishment doubling as a successful experiment. In Dottore's eyes, everyone in Teviat is a test subject, and before delivering the final blow, he always offers an objective assessment, as if documenting results in a research log. Dottore's experiments are horrifying, not because they are chaotic, but because they are orderly, repeatable, and institutionally enabled. Yet his experiments aren't completely irrational. Every move he makes is calculated, every choice deliberate, and worst of all, he is aware of his potential. He genuinely believes that even God should be questioned, that rules exist not only to be followed, but to be challenged. Another thing I would like to add. From the Pale Flame artifact log, we get to know that Hero tracks Zandik not out of pity, but for mutual benefit. And it is here that we finally understand Dottore's logic. A human is nothing more than a machine of a certain level of complexity. He thinks humans are weak with emotions, unreliable because of empathy, and flawed because of unpredictability. Will you treat me like the Academia did? Will you call me a monster, a madman, or will you treat me as my hometown did and chase me away with pitchforks and clubs? This line hits the core of Zandik's personality. He isn't just a madman doing experiments with no rationality or logic. He was kicked out by his own hometown for being a monster and condemned as heretic by Academia. Clearly, by wording, we can safely assume he suffers from deep-seated rejection trauma, and that's where Saritsa enters the story. Her Majesty gives him a place and materials, whatever required by him, for his experiments. He doesn't kneel to anyone but just his experiments. When the Academia chose comfort over truth, when his hometown chose fear over understanding, and when humanity chose limits over potential, he chose something else entirely. Not faith, not morality, but progress. The Fatui did not corrupt him. They merely gave him the tools to become what he already believed himself to be. A man who saw humans as machines, a world as laboratory, and gods as unfinished prototypes. And when he laughed at the title, Il Dottore, it wasn't madness, it was clarity. Because from that moment on, he was no longer asking permission to change the world, he was preparing to dissect it. So that's it for Zandik's analysis. I plan on creating more on Dottore's backstory because he really is my favorite character. And hope you like silly little theory of mine and his analysis. Feel free to correct me or criticize me, or you can tell me even your own theories, what might have happened as well. If you're here for this long, surely I deserve a like and would love if you subscribe. So that's it for today's videos. Thank you for watching. Bye bye. See you soon, travelers.
My memory has all but faded completely, but I will always remember how much she too loved these flowers.